Well, joining us tonight to take a closer look at the details of the fiscal plan are Alexi Giannoulias, the Illinois State Treasurer. Former Governor Jim Edgar is beside him. He served from 1991 to 1998. And John Filan is the Chief Operating Officer for the Blagojevich administration. Welcome all to Chicago tonight.
Thank you.
John Filan, your new title does or does not include Budget Director, which is what it was before.
Well, I think I'm part of the senior management of the state, so certainly I'm involved in working with the budget and working through the preparation and, most importantly, the management of the budget throughout the year. So that's certainly one of the things I work with.
Well, let's talk about the instant criticism that the governor's proposal has received, that the state can't afford to pay its bills as it is right now, and that once again this plan calls for borrowing from the future to pay for programs now. How do you respond to that? How does this budget even begin to address those issues?
Well, I think the governor emphasized three things to stimulate the economy. You know, I think one of the first jobs of any governor, particularly in a downturn in the economy, is to get the economy moving again. And the governor made it clear that families were his priority, and how do we help families do that? Clearly, in his proposal for the Illinois Works program that builds schools, that builds roads, that builds bridges, he recommended taking a state asset that's not part of our fundamental mission, the lottery, which many states are proposing, many Republican governors are proposing, and to lease that for a long term and take that money and invest it in roads, bridges, and schools. And that does two things. It gives us money quickly to build these things sooner, creates 700,000 jobs, number one, and number two, we do it without borrowing money. So 2/3 of the capital program he's proposing would be done without borrowing money, by leasing the lottery. That's a major savings and a very efficient way to get those jobs created.
Alexi Giannoulias, you're in charge of investing the state's money, and you're giving some dire predictions about the return on those investments given the state of the economy. After you heard the budget yesterday, what was your reaction? Or this budget, let's say, proposal?
And it brings me no pleasure to be the doom and gloom guy, but listen, we are facing some significant problems financially in the state. And when we look at what's happening with our underfunded pension liability, when we look at our Medicaid difficulties, when we look at, as you mentioned, the interest income not being where it is because of the economy, I just want to make sure that the General Assembly and the Governor's office, that we're looking at fixing today's problems with today's money, not looking at the future and mortgaging our future. And you know, it's the analogy of trading a cow today for 5 gallons of milk. You have a cow that's producing milk. We want to make sure that we're not getting rid of too many assets. Some of the difficulties in the bond market, as Mr. Filan can tell you, there are a lot of challenges, and we need to make sure that the General Assembly and the Governor are working together to understand and identify these significant long-term problems.
Governor Edgar, as having sat in that seat before, and you've witnessed what happened last year with the budget, what is your reaction to the governor's latest proposal?
Well, first of all, I mean, budgets are tough even in good times, and times aren't that good, and the state budget for many years, I think, has been in dire straits. So it's not easy to deal with it. I think you got to be very careful that you do not, as the treasurer said, you know, spend money today that's going to cost you in the future a lot more. I think you got to be very careful about losing assets like the lottery that does bring in a steady stream of money over each year. I think you also have to face the reality we are in a very tough financial condition. I remember when I came in '91, we were basically broke, and Medicaid, as it's going to happen, has been happening, is going to continue to increase, which is the 800-pound gorilla. And I think you're going to have to say no. It's not the time to create new programs that cost money. It's the time probably to cut back and to pay the programs that you already have on the books.
Is the governor and his budgeteers, are they doing anything that you can say is favorable in terms of the finances for this state, either with this proposal or in the last budget battle?
Well, I think in some areas they have curtailed spending. I don't think they've curtailed spending in all areas. But my major concern is when you don't have money, it's hard to create new programs. And I think it's also difficult to go the borrowing route. I mean, we've seen in the last 5 years the bond indebtedness of the state more than double. We are not dealing really with the pension plan long term. That's a time bomb that's going to go off in a few years. So again, I think we've got to recognize, if we want to spend more money, if we want new programs, then I think we're going to have to raise revenues. And it doesn't seem that this administration wants to do that, which is their choice. But then I think they've got to hold the line on new programs.